Hello and good afternoon. This is just a little live thing I wanted to do really quickly, hopefully quickly. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get through this. We'll have to see how it works. But I wanted to do something quickly after being at the house yesterday for organizational day. So, yesterday I went to live stream the rally that many of us went to stop the green agenda, ask our legislature and our governor to stop the green agenda in Oklahoma. So we live streamed that. And then after that was finished, the House and the Senate both, I just only happened to go to the House and the Senate both had what they called an organizational day. And in the House, they the body met in order to discuss, I'm going to say discuss, in order to take up, let's say this, to take up the House rules for the year, the House rules which would govern how legislation would be dealt with, whether it's in committee or on the floor, but be dealt with for the entire year. So I was interested in that process. And so I went and I attended. And here is what I'm going to give you is just kind of what I'm calling the citizen perspective. This is what I got out of it. So if you read any implications in it or whatever, there's simply my opinion and what I saw. So, and what struck me when I was there. In earlier on, it began at 1 o'clock. And earlier on at 1 o'clock, there was all kinds of media there. I mean, there were cameras, there were news stations, there were all kinds of people from media outlets taking photographs. There was a lot of media interest because the House was electing Kyle Hilbert, who was the speaker elect at the time, to be the official speaker of the House. And then they were also electing the pro tem at the time. So there was quite a bit of media. Then, after all of that, I'm going to call it hoopla. After all of that was finished, then the news media essentially left, and so did most of the viewers that were in the gallery, because if those of you who are watching haven't been, you can actually go up and sit above the floor and look down on what's going on and watch the legislators deliberate and talk about legislation from the gallery. And pretty much the gallery had cleared out. There were just a few of us there. It was pretty full at the beginning, and then there were just a few of us left. So here's what I did. I took some video, and it's not good. It's okay. I wanted to compare and contrast the video I took with the video that was actually loaded on the House website. So here's how I want to start. I'm actually going to share my screen with you so that I can show you this website. So let me make sure that it's actually in on the stage. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about first. We're going to talk about actually who is in leadership in the House legislature. And you can find this, you'll notice, State of Oklahoma House of Representatives. If you go there, okhouse.gov/representatives, you'll find this. So Kyle Hilbert was elected Speaker of the House. Anthony Moore was elected Speaker pro tem. The Stan May is the Majority Caucus Chair. Nick Archer is the Majority Caucus Vice Chair. Josh Cantrell is the Majority Caucus Secretary. Josh West is the Majority Floor Leader. Majority Deputy Floor Leader is John Pfeiffer. Majority Deputy Floor Leader is Steve Bayshore. Majority Whip is Tammy West. Majority Leader is Mark Lawson. Majority Deputy Leader is Tony Hassenbach. Tribal and External Affairs is Scott Fatgatter. And Chris Canaday is the Counselor to the Speaker, which is a new position that's not been position until this year. Assistant Majority Floor Leader is Colin Duell. Assistant Majority Floor Leader is Jared Kendricks. There are quite a number of these, and you can look and see exactly who all of these people are if you just go to the website. It's you can read them all. So I just wanted to point that out so that everybody knew exactly who we were dealing with, because you'll see several of these people in the videos that I'm going to show you here. So if you go to the Oklahoma House of Representatives, and I'm going to share my screen with you again so you can see this, because I truly invite, almost beg you, frankly, to go to these websites and look at this stuff yourself, because I've always said my opinion is what you pay for it, which is usually zero. So, but I've just been around the process quite a number of years. And so I just try to talk about what I see. So I want you to go and see this for yourself. So on this page, you can actually go to, this is on the House of Representatives media page. So that's how you can find that, is by navigating there. And I hate to go back because I'm afraid I'll lose it if I do. But you can actually go, and it says organizational day for the 60th legislature of Oklahoma House of Representatives. And you can actually go and you can play this recording, and this recording is there. And all you have to do is touch play, and it plays, and you can scroll. It's kind of a nice player, frankly. You can go back and forth. You can go, I'm going to pause it so you can go. It's really a nice little player, and you can look at these things for yourself. So that's where I got the house footage that I'm going to show you today. I just did a video screen grab from this particular website. I just ran the video and let it screen grab because I wanted to make a couple of points. But again, this is where you would go to find out. Here, let's go backwards just so that you can see where we're going. Okay, if you go to the House, oh gosh, there are several of them out there. So if you go to the Oklahoma House, Oklahoma Legislature, here's the Oklahoma Legislature. If you go to the House home, all right, this is the House home. You can actually see floor agenda, live proceedings, find your legislature. So this is on the House of Representatives website. So if you go to live proceedings, this is where you would find that particular recording. So you would just go here, not now playing, because these are just scheduled, but you would go to recordings, and then you would be able to find it. And here it is right here, organizational day for the 60th legislature of the Oklahoma House of Representatives. So that's how you would find it. I hope that I didn't massacre that too well and you understood how that worked. Hold on just a second. Okay. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to use the comment section and ask, and I will do my best to answer your question or direct you the best that I can. Okay, so that's what we learned. And I also want to point out this as well. So if you'll give me just a second, I will share my screen here as well. So if you go to the home page, the Oklahoma State Legislature homepage, you will see where you can find all of these things. But I want to direct you to the bottom. If you don't know your legislature for some reason, all you need to do is type in your address and your city and your zip code here and hit search, and it will pull all that information up. Every single one of your elected officials that you have in Oklahoma at the state level will pop up there. Also, too, if you want to find legislation, this is where you go to find legislation. So let's actually do this. And let's type in the legislation, which was a House resolution, and it was 1002, which is what they were talking about yesterday. These are the rules for the House that they were talking about and voting on. So all you have to do is click search, and then that then that bill actually comes up, or that House resolution comes up. So I wanted to point out, I'm going to share this tab instead, because if you look, it will say history, and it talks about the history. And I want to point something out. This was introduced, it said, on 1/7. I'm not sure. I understand, so I'm not positive about this, but I understand that the legislators were able to see HR 1002 on Friday, I believe. So they had time to be able to look through the HR and do the rules, look at the rules, and make up, if they had questions or they wanted to propose amendments, then they had time to be able to do that. It may have been earlier. I heard Friday. It may have been earlier. So there were actually some amendments to the rules that were put into place. And these are the amendments that you can see right here. There were 6 amendments by Gann. There was 2 amendments by Shaw, 1 by Jenkins, 3 by Fugit, and 1 by Hilbert and 1 by Menz. So these were the ones that were to be taken up on the floor during the organizational day. I did not view the bill, but you can do that. So if you go to versions, you can actually say introduced. And once you do, it will come up. This will be what you see as introduced, a resolution relating to the rules of the House of the Oklahoma House of Representatives. And so there you can actually read the rules yourself if you do that, just like any other bill, even though this is a House resolution. So I actually did not read all of the rules before I came in. I just went to listen to see. But I was aware of the fact that this year, Speaker Hilbert had made some, which are in the rules, some differing committee structure than we had previously. So previously, we had a committee structure where you had a committee, and let's just say the Senate Committee on, or the House Committee on Education. So the bill would go to that, how it would be introduced, then it would go to that committee. And then if it was passed on, it would more than likely go to the floor for a vote. Well, this year, there's another committee that the bill needs to go through after it's gone through the initial committee before it even goes on. And I'll be very honest and tell you, I'm not really certain about how this whole process is going to work. All I know that it is very different than the way it's been done before. So when I went in and I sat down to listen to them discuss this bill, I was, and it was great seeing you as well, Dorn. Several of us actually sat there and watched this procedure. I'm not really quite sure how to explain this. I was hoping that, because so many of our legislators had talked about having a more transparent process this year, that what we were going to find was a pretty transparent process. And I have to admit that I was a little unsettled actually by what happened. And I'm just going to go ahead and start playing these videos for you. And I'm hoping that I can remember how to play the videos, because I'm hoping I don't have to. Oh, yes, I remember now. I'm going to pull up this video and share my screen. And I'm going to share my window so that you can see the media player play. And I want to, I'm hoping you can see, there's the video player. Okay, that we can see. All right. This is, I'm going to back up to the very beginning, and you'll have to excuse me. I've got some notes that I'm going to go through so that I can make sure that I'm doing this correctly, and because I've gone through the video to make sure that I was going to get the correct. All right. Okay, I'm going to go to my other video and share that one. Unfortunately, my video player doesn't actually. Oops. Okay. Now, this is one thing that you're going to notice, and one thing that was really frustrating for me when we were there. If you're sitting in the gallery, it's very loud, but the words are very garbled. So those of us who were sitting there had a really hard time understanding what was being said. It was very hard. You had to really focus because the acoustics in there aren't very good. And so they'll speak from the floor, but then it goes up and it bounces all over the place. And you just simply can't hear it very well. It sounds very garbled. So you'll have to forgive me about that in terms of this, about this particular video. But I'm going to start here with, in what you're seeing right now is Representative Tom Gann, and he's getting ready to make the first of 5 amendments. And so I want you to listen to it. This is my recording. HR 2002, take it back to Richmond. There's a thing there, right? Thank you, Speaker. Move table amendment. There's a proper motion. All those in favor of the table. Clerk, please activate the machine for a vote on the table motion. Okay, I'm going to stop the video right here so that I can have a chance to talk to you about what just happened. So Representative Gann asked to have his amendment heard. He was recognized. The clerk, I didn't show that part, but the clerk read the amendment, and then he was able to tell his amendment to the House floor. No questions were asked. I mean, did you see how quick that actually happened? So he said his amendment, and immediately Representative Scott Fatgatter stood up and said, "I move to table the amendment." If you table the amendment, it doesn't kill the amendment, it just moots it. So it just stops it. Usually a tabling motion is done in a meeting. If you're not ready to discuss that particular issue, or you don't have enough information and you table it to the next meeting. A tabling isn't really supposed to be the end of discussion on something. A tabling motion is meant to put it aside and deal with it later, okay? But these are the rules for the House that they're going to act on. So how does a table, this was my concern, how does a tabling motion actually work in that sense? Because you can't take it up later. If you're tabling it, basically you've made the motion moot. You've just kind of canceled it. And if you'll notice, it was a very rapid succession of things from the time that Representative Fatgatter moved to table the motion. Immediately you heard Speaker Hilbert say that he would take a vote. Well, that's what he's referring to. He was going to take a voice vote, which meant that the representatives in the chamber would say aye or nay, and that's how they would have the vote. So what happened then was Representative Gann, who does have the option under the rules to be able to ask for a recorded vote, he asked for a recorded vote. That meant that he had to stop and they had to activate the machines, and people at the desks actually had to punch in a red for no or a green for yes. And it was my personal opinion that it happened very quickly. There was no discussion even allowed, because immediately there was a table on that motion. That was distressing to me, somebody who's been in a number of committees, to be able to see that there was absolutely no discussion. There was just a table, and then that was the end of it. And I also, and I'm sorry if this is incorrect, but to me, it seemed as though the speaker was a little upset, frustrated maybe, that he had to put on the machine for that vote. So that was kind of a concern for me. And I want to change the video out so you can see actually what happened if you're looking at the one that's in the House. This is what it would look like. I hope everybody's able to hear. If you're not, please leave me a message that if you cannot hear the video.
Mr. Speaker, I move to amend House Resolution 1002, pages 29 through 30, amendments submitted by GAN.
President Gain, you recognize. Explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Basically, this amendment would remove the current structure of the committee structure that's proposed in HR 1002 and take it back to the original 59.
President Feckheader, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move table amendment.
That is a proper motion. All those in favor of tabling the amendment.
Object. Recorded vote.
Clerk, please activate the machine for a vote on the table motion.
Okay, so that was what it looked like from the way the House was recording it. And I want you to notice up in the very, very top is the board to tell how people voted. And I want to go ahead and forward that so that you might be able to see how that, oh gosh, it's really hard to see, isn't it? Very hard to see. Okay. You can see a little bit there up in the top of your screen. There were not a lot of no's on this vote. And I want to point out, Representative Gann was asking for the body to go back to the rules that they had before and not implement the new committee structure with this extra committee and the other things that were happening. So that was one of the first ones that I wanted to show you. Then I wanted to show you, I'm going to go to I'm going to go to the House video 5. Let's go forward. Okay, and this is another one of Representative Gann's. This is number 3.
Mr. Speaker, I move to amend House Resolution 1002, page 6, lines 9 through 15, amendments submitted by GAN.
Recognize. Explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Basically, this amendment would remove the ability of the Speaker to take a bill out of a policy committee and put it into the Rules Committee without any other option for a member to get that out except for the written consent of the Speaker.
President Feckheader, for what purpose?
Move table amendment number 3.
That's proper motion. Clerk, please activate the machine.
Vote.
Please activate the machine.
Object. Recorded vote. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to kind of cut to the chase basically and tell you that all 5 of Representative Gann's amendments met the same fate. And I want to show you something that comes from my video. You are not going to see it on the House video, but I want to show you something that comes from the video that I took. Because it was a completely different perspective of what actually happened. All right. So, all right. I'm going to scoot this along a little bit so that we can get to the point. Okay. All right. Now, here's the part of the video that I want you to see. I started noticing that Representative Fettgatter was popping up in his seat even before Representative Gann was finished talking about his amendment to table. And this happened on every single one of his amendments. And I want to show you what I'm talking about.
Yes, one more here on number 6.
Or read Sixth Amendment.
Okay, I'm going to back it up so you can see it again. So that you can see it again. Watch.
Yes,
Here's Representative Fettgatter. Did you just see him just hop right up? Representative Gann is still talking. Here's Representative Gann. He's still talking.
Mr. Speaker, I move to amend House Resolution 1002, page 15, over.
He hasn't even talked about his resolution.
Language, Speaker, this would remove the entirety of lines of 15 through 18 and replace it with the chairperson of the Rules Committee when authorized by the affirmative vote of the majority of members of the Rules Committee shall be permitted to offer amendments to strike title.
Please notice that he already has his microphone in the air before Representative Gann has even finished. Now, I'm going to say this. The legislature, in all the years that I've been going and watching the legislature and talking to representatives and senators, have always been very huge about business on the floor. They always want it to be respectful. They talk about this. Well, this is not respectful if they don't like something, or this is respect, or this is how respectful. I'd like to know how respectful it is that Representative Fettgatter would be standing here with his microphone in the air before Representative Gann had even finished explaining his amendment.
Enacting funds for revolving funds, the measure not affecting revenue or appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move to the table amendment number 6.
All right. Did you hear that happen again? It was rapid fire. Boy, we were just done. We're tabling. We're getting a vote on it right now. I don't believe that. I mean, I'm sure this has happened. And again, this is my perspective. This is my perspective. I don't remember seeing things happen quite that fast. Usually somebody has a question and there's a question allowed about it. So I want to pose just a thought, just something that maybe we could think about. Everybody had, looks like we need to rename the GOP to the GOB, the good old boys. Well, I'm just curious to know if it doesn't seem as though I think these rules had been out. Yes, Hilbert is in the speaker's chair, and yes, it is very hard to see. I apologize, but yes, the little tiny man there is Speaker Hilbert. Yes. I just want to point out that I don't think, and since Julie is on here, I'd be interested in what she says. Have we ever sat in and heard no debate on a bill before, that it was just tabled and struck? I'm very curious if you can remind me, because I don't remember hearing that. So I want to point out that all of the representatives had this HR 1002 to read for several days before that happened. But I also want to point out that the rules were put together by people that were in one of the caucus groups that put together these rules. I'm not sure who that was. I have no idea who it was. And even Josh West, the floor leader, when he was asked about who put the rules together, couldn't be succinct and say who it was, just that it was a group of people that actually put them together. So I will say this, from my perspective, this seemed extremely staged. It seemed as though they were not willing to hear any of Gann's amendments. Nobody even wanted to discuss them. That wasn't something that was going to be even brooked as a consideration. So they were just, Representative Gatter just tabled every single motion. So I just want to point that out. Again, this is my perspective, but this is kind of what it seems. And Julia says, no, I don't recall no discussion. I surely don't recall someone waving their microphone in the air while someone was speaking. And I don't know. I think I remember a couple of tough bills where maybe, there was a little bit of that, but I don't remember any. I'm with you, Julie. I don't remember a time when there was simply no discussion, and there was no it happened so fast. How could you have gotten a question in there? How could you have said, excuse me, Speaker, I have a question on the amendment, which would then have gone to Representative Gann, who then could have talked about it. So there's that. But now I want to move on to something that's more important, because I don't want to take up a whole bunch of time today. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to change over to the House video. Okay, so we can look at the House video. And I'm going to go to 17 minutes into the House video. A little over 17 minutes.
When I look at the language that was added, Representative,
and I have to
only
turn
the
this
vote
up.
on recommendation for final passage, and then added in a full standing committee or an oversight.
Authored by
Added
Rep.
to
Talon,
the
2022.
That's the current
Oh,
language with the
interesting.
committee structure added in.
Yeah.
Representative Shaw, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, as you all know, not all of our votes on this floor are recorded in the House Journal, meaning the public cannot easily see how representatives voted on certain amendments to bills or maybe procedural items. A member can request a recorded vote, but today that requires 1/15 of the members present in order to second that.
Representative Shaw, do you have
request.
a question? We're on questions on the resolution. Do you have a question?
I'm so sorry. I am discussing floor amendment number 7.
Would you like us to consider the
Yes,
floor
please.
amendment?
Please consider.
Clerk, please read amendment number 7.
Mr. Speaker, I move to amend House Resolution 1002, page 72, lines 12 through 13, amendment submitted by Shaw.
Representative Shaw, you're recognized to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My amendment will remove the requirement of 1/15 and simply allow any member to have a recorded vote in the House Journal upon request. I don't think every single vote should be recorded. That would be an unnecessary administrative burden. It would slow us down and, quite frankly, wouldn't serve the public interest. But if a member believes that an amendment or a motion on the floor affects their district, I don't believe they need a second member to stand up and second them in order to get that on the record. They, along with the rest of us, have thousands of voters back home that sent us here that are the seconding of those requests. We need more transparency in our government, and today, even if just a little bit, we can achieve an increased level of transparency. Mr. Speaker, I move adoption of my amendment.
Representative Kennedy, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the speaker yield to questions?
I do yield to questions.
Thank you.
You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Are you familiar with Rule 9.6 and the procedures for appealing a decision of the chair?
Not off the top of my head, no.
You recognize for follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So 9.6 in that procedure is a safety valve that empowers this body against the speaker. That exact language is the language you're trying to take out of this rule. Are you aware of that?
If you would explain a little bit more for me, that would be great. What safety valve are you referring to?
You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the language dealing with 1/15 of the House standing is the ability of the House to stop or prevent or make the speaker, the presiding officer, do something or prevent him from doing something. So are you aware that the exact language in Rule 9.6 that sets that procedure and is a safety valve against the Speaker of the House is the same exact language that you are trying to take out of this rule?
It was my understanding that the speaker held the ability to request a recorded vote without a seconding motion, right? So what I'm requesting is that any member in this floor be treated with a similar way on this particular issue when it comes to recorded votes.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In your explanation, you stated you wanted to remove the 1/15 of the House standing as a second. We just witnessed 6 times a member requesting a recorded vote and there wasn't a second because we have that safety valve. So why is this amendment necessary when you just saw 6 times the speaker granting the member recorded vote request without a second? Why is this amendment necessary?
That's a good question.
Representative Kennedy, you recognize.
Representative, are you aware that in Article 5, Section 30 of the state constitution, this exact language exists? And by you putting the amendment in this rule, you are making the rule itself unconstitutional.
I was not aware of that specific language.
Representative Kennedy, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This time I move to table the amendments.
That is a proper motion. Clerk, please activate the machine.
Okay. I just wanted to play that, and I want to point something else. And Representative Banning is making a comment, and I will absolutely take your comment up, but I'm going to point out something else first. So I would like to point out something that was Representative Chris Kennedy, and he has been appointed the Speaker Special Counsel, which is something new, it's a new thing. And I would like to show this. All right. So this is an article from the Oklahoman from June 15th, 2022. Oklahoma Ethics Commission sues out-of-state PAC, says campaign finance laws were broken. So I don't know how many of you have been following Oklahoma politics for quite some time, but in 2018, there were a number of conservative members of the House who were actually ejected from the House they were just turned out. The voters came out and turned them out. But there was a Virginia-based Conservative Alliance PAC treasurer, Chris Marston, who were at the forefront, or the PAC was providing money for advertising against these candidates. And what was happening was actually Representative Kennedy himself had stated numerous times that he was behind the effort to oust the conservatives in 2018. And he said that Kennedy told the Associated Press, all I did was have conversations with people and set things in motions to say that this situation has to be addressed. And that's about the conservatives. And then the Ethics Commission came back and said, it appears the defendants, Chris Marston, misled citizens to believe it was an Oklahoma-based PAC by including on its communications the PAC name, a phone number with an Oklahoma area code, and no address. This is something that I've taken up when I did my research on dark money in Oklahoma. This is kind of the standard go-to for these kinds of PACs. They don't have Oklahoma information. It did register as a super PAC with the Federal Election Commission in March 2018 to support or oppose federal candidates. It reported to the FEC that it accepted over $1 million in donations from a single contributor, Prosperity Alliance, in 2018. And Prosperity Alliance, I've also brought that particular organization up. It's a 501c4. It's been noted by the IRS numerous times for not following the law regarding PACs. So there's that. And then in this particular tab, it actually shows on this article, this was a non-doc article, and it says Ethics Commission settles Conservative Alliance PAC lawsuit, Kennedy mum. So it talks about the fact that the Oklahoma the Oklahoma Ethics Commission has settled a lawsuit against a Virginia-based political action committee that spent more than $150,000 in multiple Republican Oklahoma legislative races in 2018 as part of an electoral effort participated in by a top GOP House leader to defeat several hardline members of his own caucus. And it goes on to talk about that, but it says, Representative Chris Kennedy, who now serves as the chairman of the powerful House Committee on Judiciary, Civil, acknowledged to reporters in 2018 that he helped launch the attack on his own colleagues. Part of his frustration stemmed from far-right House Republicans' refusal to vote for increased tax revenues needed to balance the state budget and pay for an historic teacher pay raise that year. This group, this is Kennedy, this group, all they really knew was the red button, Kennedy told the New York Times. They voted against everybody's issues. Once you cut out the cancer that was attacking us, we're now in a position to heal and move forward. We're now unified as one. That was Representative Kennedy talking about conservatives in 2018 that he helped oust using a PAC that didn't follow ethics rules. So I'm going to go back because I want to address Representative Chris Banning is online with us today, and I want to address several of the comments that he's made. He said, there were 17 of us that came in for hours on New Year's Eve, multiple from each class, and we voted on every member's suggestion. Gann was not part of the voting committee, nor do I believe he was even asked. He even asked to be asked. Speaker Hilbert wasn't a voting member of this group. Representative Shaw's amendments were directly against the Constitution. Section 5-30, judges of election members, quorum rules, disorderly behavior, journal. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalty as each house may provide. It's amazing to think I have a master's degree as poorly as I read all of that. Thank you for providing that, Representative Banning. He did go on to say, please know I love Gann and Shaw, just stating facts. Julia says, getting rid of smaller government Republicans in 2018. Absolutely. And my argument isn't whether that was constitutional or not constitutional. I've already stated I did not read the rules. I don't have any knowledge of this. I'm reporting on this as a citizen as to what I felt like happened there and what I saw. And I will have to say that in my personal opinion, and I don't have to stick up for Jim Shaw, he's a big boy and he can stick up for himself. So that's not what I'm doing here. But in my perspective, when I looked at that, when I watched that video, I felt like I honestly felt like that was bullying. There was just bullying attempted there. And and Representative Banning, you're always willing to call me out on anything I say incorrect here. But it is my understanding that if a person has a problem with an amendment, that person, that representative, is always able to go to the representative and speak to that representative about that amendment before they go to the floor. Sometimes then amendments are revoked. Sometimes amendments are changed, but that's the way that happens. So my question is there no way then that Representative Kennedy couldn't have dealt with that in another way other than doing that with that on the floor, or anybody else for that matter? But I found it interesting that Representative Shaw, who has been the talk of the town since he's been elected, because the citizenry spoke, and unelected Representative Wallace, who was in that seat before him, and that was a big losing Kevin Wallace from the House, who was on the powerful Appropriations Committee, was a big deal. And Representative Shaw has made no bones at all about the fact that he is a conservative. We all know, it's been reported over and over again, what Representative Kennedy thinks about conservatives and what happened in the 2018 elections. But he's counsel to Speaker Hilbert now. So I found that very interesting, and something that I felt like, let's see, Representative Banning. Yes, that was the New York Times. Actually, Chris Kennedy did go to the New York Times and out himself to the New York Times. He was actually proud of the fact that in 2018, he removed these conservatives. Representative Tom Gann will be our speaker January 20th at the Republican. You'll have to tell me exactly. It's at Jenks City Hall. All invited. Doors open 8:30. Meeting starts at 9 a.m. So if you'd like to talk to Tom Gann about any of this, please go to see them in. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Whitney says GOP bullies. But I do want to point out that in my personal perspective, this felt like the most staged anti-people opening to the House legislature that I can personally remember. And I was very distressed about the way Tom Gann was treated, and I was very distressed about the way Jim Shaw was treated. And I feel like if we're going to talk about how we absolutely must uphold the sanctity of the House and that we must be respectful to one another, I don't see how we started off on a good foot there. And Margie says, yes, very much aggressive bullying stance and tone towards Shaw. We, the voters, wanted Shaw to do exactly what he did. And I think if this is the way we're going to start, I think there may be some concern. I certainly have concern. I certainly have grave concern at this point. I was Dorn said, is Gann getting reprisal for his HR 1001? And that's a good point. And I actually did. Thank you for that. So Gann has introduced legislation now, and I'll see if I can find it quickly while I'm up on, well, I've got the website open. Let me see if I can find it. Is it HR or is it, I thought it was a House bill. Is it HR 101? Let me look and see. Yes, it is. Good job. Okay, so let me pull this in so that we can look at this. Okay, this is HR 1001 by Tom Gann. And he's actually reported that this is a resolution relating to the rules of the Oklahoma House of Representatives. And he has several things in this particular rule. I think he had 10, changes that he wanted to make to the way the House was run. And I think one thing that I read about it said Tom Gann wants to make sweeping changes to the transparency of the Oklahoma House. And this is his this is HR 1001. And that's a really good question that Dorn brings about. Was this because he'd already released this? I suggest that you go out on the web and you find this yourself. He's also made there's a press release that his office put out on this bill, if you would like to read it. Also, if you're watching right now and you don't subscribe to our newsletters, if you'll go to rope2.org, once you get on there and start reading, there'll be a box that comes up and you can actually subscribe to our newsletter. And I put that information about Tom Gann's bill in the press release. I put that actually in our newsletter for this week. For people to read, because I thought it was important that we all read that. So if you end up going, I can share this and walk back so that you can see. If you go back to to the House Home, okay, so I'm going to share that tab. If you go back to the House Home and you go down to hold on. Okay. See more. This is the news. This is the House News. And on here, there it is. Gann proposes sweeping reforms to restore transparency to the House of Representatives. So this was the one that I was talking about. This is the one that Dorn just brought up, HR 1001. If you want to read about this, you can actually go find this. I'm going to copy this and put it in so that you can have and put it up. There you go. This is where you can find it. So if you go to www.okhouse.gov/post/news, it'll all pop up like you saw that, and you just pick that one. So I think that's an excellent question. And I think I'm about finished here. I've shown you pretty much all I wanted to show you, but I'm really hoping that in this particular time period, I've shown you not just about what happened when everybody left. And thank you for being on. Thank you so much. I hope I've kind of helped a little bit about, hold on one second. It's very obvious once people like us put these puzzle pieces together. I guess they think we aren't watching. We need more Gann, more Shaw, more political animals. I do hope that once I get off of here that I've done a couple of things, which was open your eyes a little bit to what's going on, to who's actually in leadership in the House, who has positions in leadership that are new, who had to make I don't know if I want to use the word show, but who had to confront our new conservative, one of our new conservative, because there are several new conservatives in the House this year. Molly Jenkins being another one who actually did get one of her resolutions passed. Good for Molly Jenkins. Good for her. And it was to keep men out of the women's bathrooms in the legislature. So there you go. It was great. And it was interesting because out of all of the amendments that they touched, really honestly, other than Representative Kennedy giving Representative Shaw a rather unpleasant lesson on the House floor to make a point, in my perspective, they had quite a bit of discussion about Molly Jenkins' amendment to keeping men out of the women's bathrooms in the legislature. And so that was good and good for her. But I do hope I not only talked to you about that and kind of maybe opened your eyes a little bit and maybe gave you some things to think about, but also I hope that I went through the House website just a little bit so that you can now find your legislator, help other people do that if they need to, find a bill if you need to, find where the press releases are, find where you can find where the video is of these things on the floor, and make sure that you understand that there were other votes that were taken in the House at this time that were done by voice vote, which couldn't have been recorded votes. So we wouldn't have known how legislators voted on those. And if I don't see that as being transparent at all. So again, in closing, if anybody has any last questions they want or comments that they want to get in before I end, this was a little longer. I was hoping to do this in 30 minutes. It was a little longer than I meant for it to be, but I do hope it was instructive in some way. And I do feel like it's important for us to attempt to work with these legislators as citizens. They actually, just as Representative Shaw said, we're representatives of the people. I'm here for the people. I'm not here for myself. I'm for the people. And I think it's very helpful if we remind, if we need to remind our legislators of that from time to time. Dorn says, I understood Shaw's request and they did too. So thank you for joining me. We had a nice live audience this afternoon, and I'm sorry for taking up your Wednesday afternoon, but thank you for so much for being here. And if you felt like this was really helped at all, or if you got anything out of it, would you please share it? Because as soon as I'm finished, it will be on. I didn't post it on Rumble. Unfortunately, I couldn't. It wasn't going to work today, but it will be on our YouTube channel, and you will be able to find it on our Facebook page, and I will upload it to Rumble so you can find it there. So thank you again. Thank you so much for being engaged. I really appreciate everybody being on, and I appreciate the comments and the questions, and I appreciate Representative Banning being on as well. Tanya says they were trying to make an example out of Representative Shaw. So I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. No idea what's coming with snow tomorrow. We'll have to see. But thank you for being with me today, and I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.